Hi, I'm Julie Bishop, the Minister for Foreign Affairs, and I'm going back to school with Student Edge.
Hi, I'm Simon Murado, and today I'm sitting down with Foreign Minister Julie Bishop. Thanks for taking the time to speak with us.
My pleasure.
Looking back to high school, what were the subjects that you kind of really gravitated towards, the ones you sort of really looked forward to going to the next day?
I loved the histories. In my final year, I did ancient and modern history. I loved Australian history. So anything that was about a story, about who we are, about where we came from, where we're going, anything to do with civilization and the world in which we lived, I was always very keen on it. World affairs, political affairs, so no wonder I ended up as Minister for Foreign Affairs.
Were there any subjects that you kind of struggled with, or, you know, whether you enjoyed them or not, you just had trouble kind of figuring them out?
I was less keen on physics and chemistry and much keener on the liberal arts subjects. So I did language, I did German, I did histories, I did geography, subjects like that. So as soon as I could focus my attentions on those subjects, I was able to choose, and I did.
How's your German today?
Not so good.
Okay. Well, a life in politics, or a career in politics and public service, they can be kind of abstract career goals when you're a young person. I'm curious, what were you kind of aspiring to be through these high school years, or was politics indeed sort of an end goal for you?
No, it wasn't. I was very keen to be a lawyer, and I saw myself having a career in the law, and so I did in fact practice law for about 20 years before I went into politics. So no, I didn't plan to be a politician when I was at school or at university. That came much later in life.
When did those political aspirations kind of come to the fore?
Oh, after I'd been practicing law for some time. I finally made the decision to go into politics when I was taking a sabbatical at Harvard Business School in 1996. So it was a much later time than when I was at uni.
Okay. What was it like going back to Harvard after some years away from study? Was it easy to kind of go back into those rhythms, or was it a bit difficult?
No, it was difficult. I think we all found it rather difficult, particularly those who had not studied for a very long time. But I threw myself into it, as I do with most things, and I enjoyed it very much and made a lot of friends there as well.
Were there any student jobs you had, or jobs as a teenager that you kind of look back on, even if they weren't necessarily leading you towards the law?
Oh, I always had jobs when I was at school and at university. My parents had a property in the Adelaide Hills, and so I worked in the cherry orchard during the summer months and packing and picking cherries. But I also had jobs in bars, in pubs, in restaurants. I was always trying to bring in extra money so that I could travel. I used to spend my money on travelling.
What was the first destination that you were like, okay, I've got the money from the cherry picking or working in the bar, where were you going?
My sister and I went through Southeast Asia. We went to Singapore and Bangkok and Kuala Lumpur and Hong Kong, and travelled throughout Southeast Asia. And I was 17, and it was a great experience, and hence my love affair with Southeast Asia ever since.
Were your parents fine with you travelling at that age? Was there any kind of negotiating to kind of convince you to go?
There was a level of negotiating, but once we'd set our minds to it and we'd raised the money ourselves through working, there wasn't much they could say about it.
Sure. I don't envy your parents on their side of the negotiation table for that. You're a noted emoji lover. And recently the Oxford Dictionary announced their word of the year is the emoji with tears of joy. Now, how do you feel about this? This has been controversial. I don't feel like that's a very common emoji. Do you find, is that one you use regularly? Okay, sure. Not the vomit emoji?
I use a number of emojis quite often. Probably the one with the big spooky eyes, which is very adaptable. I also use the smiley one. Oh yeah, I use a lot in my emails and text messaging and tweets.
Of course. I ask because there's sort of conversation at the moment about, certainly in the UK, where they're trying to incorporate more smartphones and tablets into the classroom. Do you think that's an effective way of working with kids with their technology they're using, or is it more of a fun distraction on the side?
No, I think it's reality. This is how people communicate these days, and whilst I would never want to see the written and spoken word replaced, nevertheless, the single emoji character can say a lot of things. It's like charades in one sense, but it's a bit of fun, and I enjoy using it. It can express a whole range of emotions just in one single character.
You're now among, the highest ranking woman in Australian government. Throughout your career, as you've kind of risen up through the ranks, have you Have you faced obstacles, do you feel, as a woman, or have you felt discrimination in any kind of way that maybe in 2015, and for anyone out there who is looking to get into politics as a young woman, do you feel we're at a better place for that than necessarily?
Of course, and it comes down to a critical mass of women going into politics. The more women there are in politics, the less it'll be a novelty, the less it will be a topic of conversation or discussion. I think the days when we can just assume that, of course, women can rise to any position in political or other life because that's what they're capable of doing, and if they're chosen on merit and if they're appointed on merit, well, then that should be a wonderful thing, not some curiosity that we discuss.
Absolutely. To wrap up, when you do look back on your years of education, whether it was at uni or high school or primary school, are there any things you regret, any things that you feel like, oh, I wish I had done it this way, or I wish I could go back and study this, or has it led you to where you are?
Well, I don't think there's any point in doing regrets. You know, don't do regrets. It's happened, you've chosen your life, make the very most of everything that you have been faced with and every opportunity that you've got. Face your challenges, embrace your opportunities. So I don't look back in that regard, but I certainly look forward to the future.
Great. Is there one piece of advice you would give students based on your own experiences?
I'm sure students are going to get a lot of advice from a lot of people. Probably I would say to them, don't let others define you. Always be true to yourself, trust your judgment, trust your intuition, and don't let others try and define who they think you should be. Be very true to who you know you are.
Fantastic. Minister, thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure.
Hey guys, if you enjoyed that video, click here to subscribe to our YouTube channel, or find more of our stuff at studentedge.com.au.